Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up. I wasn't really sure how many people would come. Philip sent an email to say that he was going to be late because he had another meeting, and Yana just told us that Hank Tower was going to be here. So I think this is an excellent turnout for our first meeting of the year. Is Unity? I can't. All my 6 aren't showing up at the same time. Unity's still, yeah, Unity's still here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that we've done this before, but can everybody just bear with me and let us do it once more? I think this is Ann's first time with us this morning. So why don't you just say who you are, where you are, what you do, just to welcome Ann on board. And this will also, it's something good to do. But I think Hangtao and Yana are going to be the first people to talk to us today, and we're still waiting for Hangtao to get here. So I'm Angela Benson of No Picture. I'm black, but I'm not really that black. Everything around, okay. I just don't walk around in a black cloud and just, anyway. I am from the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and right now I'm in Windhoek, Namibia, which I'm probably pronouncing all wrong. And that means that my office is not far from Gabriel's office, even though I couldn't tell you how to walk there because I don't know how to walk there yet. I only know how to go places that my husband can drop me off in front of. But I'll figure it out pretty soon. So welcome everybody and hello. How about you, Gabriel? You want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Gabriel Unona in Namibia, University of Namibia. I'm a coordinator for instructional design. That's right, Benson is with me at University of Namibia. So welcome everybody. And
Gabriel has a huge office that's very nice in the library.
Thank you, Angela.
Ann?
Hi, I'm Ann Montgomery. I am in sunny Southern California at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yay!
At the moment, I am working as a substitute teacher. My husband's job drags me all over the place, so I do what I can where I'm at and do research on the side. I'm hoping to move back to Georgia here shortly and maybe work for University, Georgia Southern. So
congratulations!
I'm waiting still. I haven't heard anything, so it's wishful thinking.
Hey, I believe in being positive, so we'll think positively with you.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, Unity, it's your turn. Is she there?
I see Uni.
Yeah, that's her. It's Unity, I think.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Unity from Zimbabwe. I'm glad I'm back. Internet has been up and down. I think you've been reading about Zimbabwe and the situation.
That's true.
I'm back. I hope it will continue. I'm an educational technologist as a practitioner. I work for a university and I do more of staff development and helping students on integrating ICT into learning and teaching.
Hey, Unity, I didn't hear a lot of what you said except for the first part when you said you were having internet trouble. But it seemed like Gabriel could hear you very well. That means that I probably need to be in my office instead of at home.
We had an internet shutdown in the whole country.
But your picture is coming in great.
Yeah, now it's back, so I'm glad I'm back.
Okay, Yana? No, Yana, we'll save you. Yana, we'll save you and Hang Town for last since you're gonna present. Okay?
Sure.
You don't have to show your picture. You look nice, but still, you don't have to. So how about, who do we have left? Atieno?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Atieno Adala. I am, well, we were talking about this with Angela. I'm just going to be taking up a new appointment with beginning in March as the director of the Center for Enhanced Learning and Teaching. USIU University here in Kenya. So I'm looking
Congratulations.
basically doing faculty development and that kind of related work. So I look forward to that. But before that, I was working for the African Virtual University as a manager, research and development, and focusing on open distance and e-learning type of activities, research, conferences, and stuff like that. And yeah, so we have been meeting for the past, how many months is it? 6, 7?
Yeah, this
So
is
I look forward to continuing this this forum of ours. And Happy New Year to everyone.
Oh, Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, nice.
And congratulations on the, you see, Atieno's job means it's more likely that Ann is going to be announcing a new job at our next meeting. So we have some good vibrations going on here. So congratulations, everybody. And what we said we were going to do this time, you know, we're looking at research. We're trying to find a research project that we can all work on together. And what we did at our last meeting, and what I really appreciate, Atieno and I are the co-facilitators of this group, but I really appreciate that Atieno and I do not run this group. That this group, it really wants to work together and brings the ideas to the table and takes action and just really drags me right along down the road. So I just really appreciate it. So we had some topics, and I sent those topics in the email that we had talked about that people were interested in. In our last meeting, Hang Tao and Yana got to talking about the learning analytics and how we could tie that to culture. And we began to look at, you know, how can we begin to make this a research project that we can work on? And we thought that what we first needed to do was some investigative work. And so what they're going to come to us today with is whatever they come to us today with. So what I will do is I'll turn the floor over to Hang Tao and Yana. I'll let them tell us who they are first of all, and then what they did. And then we can talk about how we go forward from here. And it looks like Hang Tao just sent us a link in the chat box. So Hang Tao and Yana.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Hang Tao. I'll say something about who I am, and then you can introduce yourself too. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm sitting here at home with my dog, one of the dogs in my lap. The others are surrounding me. I have 3 dogs at home. Hang Tao saw them last night when we were going over our PowerPoint. I work at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. I have spent the last about 20 years in higher education. Coming from an instructional design technology background, but really investing a lot of my time in faculty development and working in centers for teaching and teaching in both School of Education, but also now at Georgetown we started a new master's program in learning design and technology. So I teach in that program. And I'll stop there and then we can go on.
Well, I'm interested to learn more about your work, Yana.
Yeah, I'd be happy
faculty development, yeah.
Yeah, I've done some work also in with the University of Zimbabwe with the School of Medicine.
Okay.
On the e-learning side, and also some other medical schools in sub-Saharan Africa around e-learning and instructional design and faculty development. So I'm more than happy to talk with you about that later.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah, happy.
Hang Tao, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hi everyone, this is Heng Tao. I'm currently working at the University of West Georgia. I graduated from Penn State with a dual title PhD degree in learning design technology and comparative and international education. So yeah, nice to see you all. I'm currently teaching at the Education Technology and Foundation Department. I'm teaching online courses and also conducting some research relevant to online learning and using learning analytics to investigate how learning occurs in online settings and how we can better support the online learners. So yeah, nice to work with you all. So today we will present something about the learning analytics and the culture, how to use the learning analytics to investigate the culture as a new lens or perspective of the learning. So Yana, if you don't mind, can I just start to briefly go through the first page, several slides, and then you can share more about your interest in the research part. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. Do you want us to share the slides or, visually on screen, or do you want to follow?
Yeah. I'm going to share this, share the screen.
Okay. All right, everyone. Can you see our colorful first slide?
Yeah, looks nice. It looks nice.
I counted the design, so you need to.
That's the only colorful one.
So we started reading quite a bit over the break and since our last meeting. Of course, we had interest in this, which is why we joined this group, and thank you for that. And part of at least my take on it has been, we've been doing online learning for a long time now. We're trying to, we talk about similar things from year to year. It sounds to me like over the last 15 years, we haven't really changed the conversation that much. The technology has changed quite a bit. But in terms of design, the conversation hasn't quite changed as much as I think we're pushing ourselves to do. So part of why I'm here in this group is to kind of push myself to start thinking and bringing different perspectives from outside of my own discipline. So I was thinking about, well, how do we define, so we're going to talk a little bit about definitions of culture, because there isn't one definition, and obviously we know that, and our lens of what we mean by culture will dictate or will lead into operationalizing our research questions. So we wanted to start from that. Then obviously we all, in any research project, we start with this huge thing, which, to be very honest with you, I'm still struggling with the big picture and narrowing it down, but Hengtao and I tried to narrow some of the ideas down and to identify some research interests and even go down to questions. And then we're going to share with you also some links to resources. And I'm not at work today, Hengtao, so I'm going to put the folder with all the readings in our drive probably tomorrow when I get to work. So the readings, we listed some, but we have some more articles that we can share. Hengtao, do you want me to turn it over now, or?
Yeah, thank you, Yana. I just, I can go through the definition and narrow the lens, and we can talk more about the research interest together, I think. So the culture, the definition of the culture, I think Angela should be familiar with those two definitions. I think this is borrowed from her publication on in the tech trend special issue of the CLT at AECT. So I searched for the definition of cultures using the Google Scholar and the Google and also some of the library services. I found much more than that. I think we have tons of the definition for the culture, but those two, I think they are more working more contextualized for the education part, for ours in the intersection of the culture, learning, and technology. So I decided to borrow those two definitions from Angela's publication. I think culture is, generally we take culture as a global thing, as an international thing, but the culture is much more than that. We can also understand embed the culture in like the work settings, like the organizational culture, like the culture of the learning. So for this project, the lens of the investigation, we started to find a more contextualized definition for the culture in the learning analytics perspective. So can you go down to the next slide. Yana, can you help me move to the next slide?
Is she there?
Sorry, I was muted. This one, it's on definitions for learning analytics.
Mhm.
Are you all seeing that?
Yeah.
Should I go to the next one, Hangtao?
Yeah, learning
Okay.
analytics.
Okay. It's on there. Can you see it?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm presenting. Am I not sharing the presentation? Hold on one second.
Oh yeah, we are seeing the slides, not the presentation part.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Oh yeah, thank you. So yeah, we also provide a definition of the learning analytics. So for the learning analytics, it's similar to the culture. There are many definitions, different kind of definitions of the learning analytics. But we just select the 2 definitions of the learning analytics to show you what it is and what is the function of the learning analytics. Learning analytics is described as the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of the data about the learners and their contexts for the purpose of understanding and optimizing learning and the environments in which it occurs. So the major thing is that we grab something from the data using the learning analytics, and then the main purpose for us to grab those understanding from the data is that to better support the learning environment. That's the main purpose of the learning analytics for my understanding. Yeah, go next slide. With the understanding of the culture and the learning analytics, we try to narrow the lens of our research. We try to context our research in the intersection of the culture, learning, and technology. My understanding is that the intersection, the learners lives in the intersection of the culture, learning, and the technology. To understand the culture in that context is to understanding how the culture of learners in the intersection of the technology and the learning. That means that if we want to understand the culture in this context, we can have several different directions, such as understanding how people are connected in online settings. When we talked yesterday, I really like what Yana said about the culture is about the connection. Naturally, so the culture is about how people can be connected in a specific setting. That means that's the culture in that settings. So for this setting, in the intersection of the culture, learning, and technology, we try to understand how people are connected in the online settings. And then we can understand how faculty or the designers can support a group of the learners with the same culture. If they share the same culture traits, share the same cultural values, it doesn't have to be the culture we often talk about, like the culture groups. It can be also the culture of the small learning group or small online community. So how we can understand their culture and how we can support this group of learners with the same culture. We will focus on this. The narrow the lens. Then we want to use the learning analytics to investigate how we can understand the culture of these specific groups. We think we can use different learning analytics techniques, like the K-means clustering. We can use it to cluster the people with the sharing the same culture. We can use the test menu. We can man the test in the discussion board and to understand some the emotion or the cognitive patterns shown in the test. We can also conduct some of the sentimental analysis. We want to understand how they feel about the topics, how they feel about the culture in that setting. We can also conduct the social network analysis so that we can understand how the how the people are networked together and how the people are connected in that setting, and using the online learning environment. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. With that narrow lens, we briefly talk about several different kinds of the research interests. We might invite you to think more about it, or if you were interested, we can start the collaboration. Yana, do you want to talk more about this? I think you have more expertise in those research interests.
I don't know about expertise, but but I think part of our discussion was in our reading. So a lot of what we try to do is, at least what I did over the break and before that is, my interest in design is also stemming from the ideas around what are the decisions that an instructional designer makes, and what are the values they're bringing into their decisions around choices they're making in design, and how much is that hidden curriculum of an organization, of a department, of a discipline, at whatever level they're working within, how is that influencing some of their decisions. And so I've been reading about that and the hidden curriculum and all that, but you know, we recognize it because we see it as part of our experience and our practice, but there isn't, at least I didn't find a lot of research around, well, how do we actually study it? So then I was reading some more business and organizational development books like the Culture Code. I don't know if anybody's read that. Has anybody read the Culture Code?
Mm-mm.
I didn't.
No, not
Look it up.
It's more about a leadership thing, because I am also, you know, so we all wear many hats. My two hats at Georgetown is I'm faculty, but I also lead a team of professionals, and sometimes there's tension there, because as an academic you want to do things a certain way, but as a practitioner you have to kind of work in a different way. So I've been reading a lot about not necessarily team building, but team formation, and also how do you take the values of an organization and support people in creating and co-creating and collaborating. So one of the things in that book that Henka and I were talking about yesterday was around, well, in order to actually form a shared purpose.
Good day. Sorry, can you call me in about 30 minutes because I'm in a web conference.
So before being able to really get creative and really having a shared purpose, that at least the argument in this, the thesis of this book is, you got to be able to get people to build, let's see, what did we, the three things that I have in the research question, to have safe connections, to then be vulnerable, and to then establish a shared purpose as together. So I started thinking, well, with learning analytics and online, how can we have these belonging cues that are visually based in a lot of our cultures, at least in, you know, people say in the classroom, well, I can see people, I can see their expressions. In an asynchronous mode in discussion, that gets lost a bit. So, well, it gets lost quite a bit. But then the writing still holds a lot of values and a lot of culture as part of it, where people are coming from. So our brains, so it's still, you know, as you can see, it's still in the brainstorming stage. So we thought, okay, one of the things we could connect with the learning analytics in relation to, for example, discussions online, could be that if we understand, you know, both activities, so maybe how many people are more active online, but also who are they replying to maybe over time? Do they tend to reply to the same people? And then examine the development of that relationship over the course of a semester or over the course of, the course itself, and see if there are any patterns, any communication patterns that emerge out of that. So as you're looking at our 2 bullets, the first 2 bullets, the ideas are, how can we better understand how people are making these connections in an asynchronous discussion environment? At least that's my lens. It doesn't have to be that.
Unfortunately, I have to leave. Colleagues, I'll try to reconnect if I go outside on the Wi-Fi, but
Okay.
they're closing now.
Can everybody hear me okay? Or is this?
I know what's happening is everybody,
Okay.
what happens is if your microphone is not muted, when you talk, you take over the floor. So if you're going to say something to somebody else, you should probably mute your phone or you cut Yana off. So here you go, Yana. I'm going to stop cutting you off.
Oh, no, that's okay. I don't mind. My children do this all the time. So I'm used to it. Discerning the mechanism of team formation and collect. So these bullets really are part of our brainstorm around how do we better understand how learners are making connections. And does that, because one of the challenges is asynchronous discussion is faculty complain all the time, well, it's not the same as face-to-face. Well, it's never going to be the same as face-to-face, but are there things that we could, as designers, put in that, encourage in that formation of the group culture, the connections people can make in relation to communication, once we understand a little bit more about what's successful in an asynchronous discussion, because learning analytics can actually give us more than one factor. And I think that's the interest I have in learning analytics, is that it brings both how we interact with a platform to the surface, but it also brings what we're putting in it to the surface. So how do we combine both the production, let's say the writing, if it's a text entry, with the activity on a platform? And can we make then better decisions around how people are engaging and learning? So we came up with a couple of questions. Again, these are very preliminary and they need a lot more discussion, but we thought we would pose these questions and are thinking so far to the group and see what people think and how we can, if people are interested, or we can go a different direction too. So I'm going to pause here.
So Yana, can I suggest that you go through your presentation, unless your next slide was going to comment on things that we said? I was just
suggesting. The next slide is readings and resources.
Okay.
So we wanted to kind of pause here.
Okay.
To see what the reaction is, what if there's any, if it aligns with anybody else's thinking about these connections we just talked about, and kind of have a discussion, to be very blunt.
Okay.
Is that, did you want us to go into more detail, or?
No, I think that you gave us a good overview. If you go back to your previous slide, is the one that sort of, for me, is this notion of understanding the cultural traits of learners in an online community. And I would say, it could be in any community. But this notion, I think my interest is around this notion of how do we actually assess culture? In some ways, you got to be, So there are a lot of different cultural models out there and frameworks that we can look at. And so, I am very interested in doing more work in looking at those models and frameworks and seeing which one of them are most applicable to the work that we're trying to do. So I actually see a lot of connection in what you've done here with learning analytics to some of the other interests of people in the group, especially my interests. And this whole notion, you know, my work tends to be qualitative. So this whole notion of counting stuff sort of, you know, used to like make the hair on my arm stand up. So the whole notion of learning analytics like goes against everything that I believe in and think and everything else. It doesn't really, I'm saying that and I'm exaggerating. But I think I would like to see us do more of this. Something came up in a meeting that I was in when I was at Alabama before I left. And it was this notion, and I hope I didn't say this in the last meeting because I hate to repeat myself, but it was this notion of Blackboard. We use Blackboard on our campus. And Blackboard actually collects a lot of data that we never see. And when we found out that Blackboard, anyway, the question came up. So the people who maintain Blackboard said, oh yeah, we collect all that data, but we don't use it unless academic affairs ask us for it. Okay, I just thought that was awful because it feeds into that stereotype that people are collecting data that they're going to use against you. So then people.
No, and that came up recently, and I put my foot down, and actually they paused a certain project that, you know, I think people don't necessarily think through sometimes because we still don't have policies around how some of these systems get used. We have the privacy, but we still kind of, for some reason, think about that at the individual level, not at the, you know, for the university level. And I think that's a very different area, but it's also of interest too.
Yes, yes.
But I like what you said about the cultural traits. So when Hang Tao and I were talking, we were also wondering what framework should we be using? Because, you know, my research is not just, you know, in culture. Mm-hmm. You know, my research is how do I bring these things together to make a better learning experience. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you're interested in thinking about these different frameworks, I think it will help us kind of put the umbrella around this. And that's what we were missing when we were, I think that was the tension we were also feeling. We were feeling overwhelmed by everything. Mm-hmm. So if we have someone who has, you know, who says, well, you know, you might want to think about these frameworks. Let's look at it from this. Mm-hmm. Then learning analytics becomes meaningful. Okay, and I think for me, that's the key thing. It's not about big data. I mean, it is in some settings and all that. But for me, the most meaningful thing in learning analytics is to start with the design framework, with the model the cognitive model you want to support, or the cultural framework, whatever that theoretical background is, to design something for it and to visualize it to the learner so that reflection and depth happens. Because my feeling is that unless sometimes students see certain things, and by seeing, I experience it, their aha moment doesn't come in. Yeah. And learning analytics for me is that it's bringing to surface the data that you just said systems mm-hmm. are collecting, mm-hmm. but it's bringing to the surface for learning, not because they haven't been as active as they should be, yes. or you know, those kind of punitive type of activities, because that whole relies on design anyhow. So yeah. when people start talking about how active people are in discussion boards, I'm like, well, one course may not use discussion boards, another one may use it all the time. So when you're comparing that data, it's not, you can't make any, you know, it's apples and oranges. So what I think, Hang Tao, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm going to pause because I like that framing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. That's I think that's also the missing piece that we discussed last night. So we really want to find some of the framework that we can use it for the learning analytics to investigate the culture. Yeah, if you have any framework regarding the culture or the organizational stuff, so that will be wonderful for us to start the investigation.
Okay. Now I can for our next meeting, and we don't have a date for that yet, but for our next meeting, I can work on some of that and present it to the group, and anybody who wants to work with me we can do that. And yeah, I think I can do that for the, and I'm sure somebody will work with me to do that for the next meeting. But I would like to hear some other people's reaction to the presentation and to how anything that was said here relates to what your interest might be. I know, Ann, you sent me an email that said that your interest was in one of the items that we had discussed. Because I think when we went into this, we were thinking that all these ideas tied together in a way that we maybe didn't see initially, but hopefully we'll be able to bring it. I don't want to force fit stuff together, but how all of our interests could possibly fit in a single research study. A big one, but a single one.
My dissertation covered MOOC's best practices. And one of the things that I discovered was directly related to what Yana just said, that there's a misalignment between what is being studied as far as participation and where that participation actually is. And it has to do with completion rates. They're saying that people aren't completing because they're not discussing in the discussion board, and they're not doing this and they're not doing that. But that doesn't mean that they're not completing the assignments or the activities. And some of the studies that I looked at, they didn't even look at that. They just looked at discussion boards. And it's like, well, our discussion boards dropped off at 2 weeks, but they didn't even say whether or not people continued and looked at assignments and things like that. So there's a misalignment between the things that they're measuring and the things where actual participation is occurring. I can put I did a presentation on that to AACE in October. I'll put my paper up there so you can see what I've talked about. But yeah, my focus has been on faculty preparation versus the analytics of participants. I spoke with faculty members for my dissertation. I worked and I did a Delphi study where I had experts come in, faculty developers and things like that. So I have other things with that talk about design, but it doesn't relate to culture. I think culture has an important part of that. So to add some of the elements that I did before might help to find out if faculty as well is thinking about culture.
Mm-hmm. And also the faculty role in building that culture. I think, and this is just me, and sometimes I wonder if I feel this way because an online course can be so much work. But, what does it mean for a faculty member to be engaged in a course? What level of engagement is actually required for students to feel like they have some type of connection with the professor? Does that mean that I as a professor have to respond to every discussion board message that's posted by all of my 30 students? Well, of course it doesn't mean that. But what does it mean? What does engagement really look like for an instructor? Because a lot of people want to say, well, some people want to say, since it's online, I don't have to do anything. I don't ever have to show up. And then there are the other people who felt like I am just totally overwhelmed because I'm showing up too much. And I think that some of this analytics, if we can take those numbers and maybe compare them with some satisfaction numbers or something like that, will start to give us a real picture of what's going on in an online course and what's making things work. I don't know. A lot of things have been researched. I think a lot of things with the detailed kind of data that we collect now can be looked at from another perspective. Just my thought. And so I'm talking too much. So somebody else needs to say something.
Okay, thank you.
Unity?
Okay, thank you. Well, for me, really, I'm more into faculty development, and like Atiene was saying, and I think Yana, on how faculty really work with technologies and the online learning management systems and so on. And from the discussion that we are having, I'm beginning to think, I never thought about culture, but in my my MPhil dissertation, I was talking more on perceptions of faculty on technology, the pedagogical perceptions and beliefs in relation to how they use the various technologies. But I never really went into looking at their culture and how they build the culture of participation and things like that, because I was thinking maybe there were more intrinsic factors that were affecting the way they use their technology, the way they adopt, because you would see investments were made, especially in our context, investments are made in technology, but there's very little use, very little adoption. People don't seem like they don't want to use technology. But I thought it's not that they don't want. There are more intrinsic issues that needed to be analyzed. So now this is bringing a new dimension where we are looking at culture and how maybe we can get some information from the learning analytics on how they build the culture, how they develop themselves. Also looking at where I wanted to go in terms of my next studies, where I was looking at digital fluency journey of the staff of the faculty. How do they go through their journey to acquire digital fluency so that they are fluent in what they are doing, whether information processing, gathering, and so on, curating of information. So this culture aspect is giving me some new insights to say there's this other missing link that we might need to also interrogate, where we are looking at the culture, how they build the culture. So if I am to trace their journey, I also try to contextualize it within a certain culture, or how understanding how they build that culture, then maybe it enriches the whole process. That's I'm quite excited about this. I never thought about it.
Okay, somebody else better say something before I say something again and take over the discussion.
I can jump in. Based on, well, I'm definitely interested in culture like everybody else. I was doing some research. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was doing some research on open education resources and talking to faculty who had been developing open education resources, and how they're being adapted, or what strategies they use to adapt these resources for learners in an African context, for example. So if a resource might have been developed elsewhere, and so he was giving me the example of, for example, he was a math instructor, and if you have to present a concept to students who are not familiar with the concept, and using stories. So this was one of the strategies that were being given when they were designing or repurposing the OER, is to draw from the cultural background of the learners and use stories that they're familiar with to present unfamiliar concepts and so on. And so those are some of the things I'm interested in. How do we adapt? Or when we're designing instruction and so on, how do we adapt resources to make them culturally accessible to learners who might not be familiar with examples from other settings and so on? And also, how do you get learners to bring in, because also learners are very different in terms of their backgrounds. So how do you begin from an open education practice perspective, get them to bring in examples, or get them to start, contributing and collaborating using things that are familiar to them from their own backgrounds when they're adapting open education resources. So I just wanted to throw that in there when we're talking about culture. Angela, I read some of your work and the cultural frameworks. So I was trying to figure out where this study would or this approach would be located, coming up with a framework. Of course, I'm talking about coming up with a framework. Mm-hmm. And so just wanted to add on to that from a perspective of open education resources.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead, Yana.
Well, no, because I think this resonates a lot with, even in a cultural context, like a different country or a group, but even in a more micro level, it's we use external resources all the time. And I think in terms of, as an instructor, you make choices about what you're bringing into the classroom, whether it's online or physical space, but we make content choices. And I think even there on the faculty side, the idea of recognizing that we are coming at it with our own expertise, but our own cultural, who we are. And that's where I kind of, where context becomes everything. And for me, this is what I tell my students, with design and learning, I run into a problem every time you tell me, oh, we could do it this way. I'm like, I don't know enough. You're not giving me enough context to help you make good design decisions. So it's kind of trying to get them to really examine the context. And it's not necessarily that you have to go into a very robust needs assessment and analysis, because a lot of the time we don't have time to do that. But how do you get context cues that allow you to also introduce materials that are relevant, but get the students to introduce the materials that are relevant as well, and then bring them together. So I love this idea of how do we do it. And that's why I kind of, learning analytics resonates with me in some way, because again, it's a surfacing these assumptions we make. And if we could surface, become more explicit about, I'm coming to you, I'm an expert in this area, and get comfortable with saying, there's lots of things I don't know. But here's the lens, here's, and I don't know how, I tell this to people, I do it, I try to model it, but it doesn't scale. So a lot of people say, well, how do we scale this into a university setting? How do we get faculty to do it in a more consistent way? And I'm like, I'm out of ideas. So this is resonating a lot with me also. So I'll pause there. So.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I'm very interested in developing those frameworks and those models and what have you, and then having the faculty, input whatever they're bringing to the design and the students and so on. So we can explore that further, and also I would be interested in how analytics can contribute to that.
And I loved what Unity was saying, and I think Atieno and Yana sort of tied it together. This notion, I think at one time, you think about, you have this online course, and this online course itself becomes a community that has its own culture. But it's not like that course just came out of nowhere. Some instructor and some set of instructional designers, and maybe an instructor with a certain philosophy and disposition, used some template that her instructional design people gave her, and that's how we came up with this course. And even that whole process of building it determines a lot of what happens inside of it. So it's not like, it's not like that course has a culture that just happened. There was some ingredients put into it that made it into that, and then it gets shaped even more. And so that says to me, it extends what we look at from just the course when it's in action to the course while it's being built, because all of that together forms the culture of the course, I think. And I didn't think about that until Unity started talking about, how faculty feel about technology and stuff, because you have some people who don't use synchronous discussion in their classes. You have some people who don't like to use discussion boards. You have people that bring all their dispositions to their course design, and that ends up helping to shape that culture. So I think it's important for us to look at all of that. I'm getting kind of excited. I'm getting
excited too. Sorry, people, when I get excited, I talk a lot, and I've been working for a long time to try to not take over. But sorry, Angela, this resonates so much with me because it combines the academic and the practice. And for me, that's been the biggest challenge in trying to get my instructional designers excited about the work. Because sometimes it's depressing when they think they're doing a wonderful job, helping faculty design these things, and all of a sudden the faculty thinks it in a different way. And I'm trying to say it's a relationship, it's a back and forth, and so there is a predetermined culture, as you said, before the course is taught.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we've done a lot in our instructional design research to really think about how are we determining that design culture. I would love to think about analytics in that way. I tend to think about the teaching, but you're right. There's a whole process that happens way before that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, I got excited too. Sorry, I'll stop talking.
No, absolutely. I think the assumptions are so important, like what Unity was saying. What is entering behavior? What are the assumptions? What are people, thinking before you even get started? Where are they coming from in terms of their backgrounds and their culture and so on?
But Atieno, that was something that you and Philip had talked about, like these culturally sensitive templates or something like that. Wasn't culturally relevant online design or something like that?
Well, no, what I was talking, they were developing open education resources, and they were using resources that were already out there, designed. So the idea is to repurpose them and adapt them.
But I know about the OER. I mean the resources. But no, earlier you and Philip were talking about frameworks. And
okay.
Meetings about culturally relevant instructional design frameworks or something like that for online learning. Maybe it was Philip. Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was Philip. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it might have been Philip. I'm just interested in developing frameworks.
OER. You're interested in the resources that the instructors use and choose for these courses.
And developing frameworks to help instructors adapt resources. And like we're saying, just maybe going through the whole process based on the discussion we've had here at the different stages of the design process and so on. How do we consider and bring in culture, not just with examples and adapting the resources, but we talk about assumptions, what are the faculty's different backgrounds and students and so on. So I'm interested in frameworks. That's why your article was interesting for me. I started going through it, and
Well, what we'll do next time is we'll spend, because our hour is about wrapping up, we'll spend some time talking about frameworks. And if I have something together before the meeting, I'll send it out so you all get a chance to look at it. Now, does anybody else, based on what we discussed today, what we're trying to do is build a whole. Does anybody else see something that they want to present on for the next time? Because I think we're beginning to draw a picture here, guys. But we got it down, yeah. And
we haven't heard from me, are you, or anybody else? Okay.
And Hangtown, there was something else that you said that you were interested in. Oh, it was OER. That's what it was. You're interested in OER too. I'm just trying to, what I'll try to do is I'll try to put together a picture. I got one in my mind of all the things that we've said here today and how they kind of map out maybe into a, what do you call that thing? Something that gives you boundaries as to what you're looking at. I'll try to write that, and maybe everybody can try to do that. Why don't everybody try, based on our discussion today, to put together like a bounded system of what we could look at, what that system looks like. In my mind, it was looking at the course. Now it's looking at the course. It's looking at the person teaching it. They're looking at the people designing it, and it's looking at the materials that they use. So and then it's looking at that data that we collect about all of that. And so how does this discussion that we had today, how does it make sense to you? So for me, it's going to make sense in a picture. Maybe it doesn't make sense for you in a picture, and maybe we can all share that next time. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds good, Angela. We can try that.
Well, then you got to tell me, Angela, that's a dumb idea.
No.
I like the reflection idea.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. So let's plan to do that for next time. We've said that we're going to meet every 3 weeks. Is that still good for people?
I put some date on the agenda document.
Can you bring it up for us, Atieno?
Huh?
Can you bring it up for us? put it on the screen so everybody can see it? So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
make some decisions while we sit here.
Let me bring it up. So where do I go now? My share screen is not activated. Does it, Angela, do you have it? I can't share it. For some reason, my share icon is grayed out. Oh, let me try here. Okay, where is it?
I can share.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. I found it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I had suggested, can you see the meeting times? February 27th is 3 weeks from today, and 20th is 3 weeks from today. 27th is 4 weeks. So I didn't know which one people would have preferred. Do we still do the 3 weeks?
Fine by me.
What do you guys think? Huh? So 20th is fine by everyone?
I think so.
Yeah.
For me, if we leave it too long, I forget.
Sure.
Okay. So 3 weeks
Same
is
here.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 is good for me.
Okay, let's just stick to the 3 weeks then. So that would be 20th. Same time and everything, all the times work for everyone?
Sure.
So we keep the times. Okay, Angela, is that good?
Yeah, I just saw Oleniki come on. Did Oleniki, did you get the time wrong? Or did we give you the wrong, did we put your time down wrong? I see him, but I don't see him. Yeah, the times work for me. If the time don't work for you, if the time that we're meeting now doesn't work for you next time, let us know now.
I think, yeah. Oluni is the one I haven't heard from. I think everybody has said it's fine.
Okay. Okay. I'm done then. You can wrap us up.
Okay. So what else? I think we had a good discussion, and we can reflect on that. Last time we had talked about reading your article, Angela. I don't know if everybody read it, and if we still want to, read it and kind of, have a common understanding or begin to think about culture the way you wrote about it. So yeah.
If you have time, you might want a glimpse at it. I'm going to talk about some of the frameworks that are in it because I don't really detail the frameworks in the paper. So what I'll try to do is to overview the frameworks and put some more detailed resources in there about the frameworks. But if you have time, I think looking at the article might be helpful.
Okay, and I saw that you added quite a number of articles in the shared folder, right? Was that?
Maybe somebody else did. I don't think I did.
Oh, who was that? We have, which is great. We have quite a few articles. I just saw them. I haven't gotten around to looking at them.
Okay. Well, I'll look.
Culture.
I will look too. Oh, maybe
Yeah.
it's Ghana and Hang Tao.
Hang Tao, was that you?
I did not yet because I
Okay.
saved them locally and I wasn't sure. So Hang Tao may have, I don't know.
Okay, so one of the folders on culture has a number of articles, maybe 6 or 7 in there. So
I think it's
yeah. Say that again?
no. I was looking. I was searching. I'm not.
Yeah. So I don't think I have anything else to add other than once we have a time and we've agreed to go and reflect and come up with something to create a, like you said, a boundary around our understanding.
Okay.
I'm just scrolling down this to see if there's anything we need to, unless there's something we need to discuss or anybody has something to add.
I don't know where the link is for the folders with the articles. Can we put that in the meeting minutes or in our agenda?
The links should be here on this agenda.
To the Google Drive thing.
It's a Google, yeah, if I can find it, let me look for it. Yeah, Google Group Resources Working Documents. No, that's not it. Let's see where it is.
if you go to that website, well, see, we got too many links going to too many places, but we also have it on that website. I don't know.
Yeah, the link to the
But we'll
website.
put it there so you can find it, Yana. We do need.
Yeah,
we
we can share it on email also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll add it to the document because I'm trying to put links to everything in here.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not here right now.
So we're meeting on the 20th at the same time that we met today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we had a great discussion. This is becoming very interesting.
Yay, we have a good group. We have a good group. We have a good group. Oh.
At least we think so. The group thinks so. Who knows?
Hey, you got to think good things about yourself. We have high self-worth.
I completely agree.
Everybody have a great 3 weeks.
That is the culture we want to see.
Yeah. This culture thing, yeah, we should reflect on ourselves too and the culture stuff we are working out here.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Agreed.
Okay, everybody. Thank you. See you next time.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
See you next
Take
time.
care, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Let's reflect. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Hey, you still there? I see you know.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, we had a great meeting. It was a great meeting, don't you think?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Philip didn't make it, but it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Unity made it.
up.
Yay!
Yeah, Unity made it, so that was good.
Okay.
But I'm happy. It's shaping up. So let's just keep at it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to send this to Philip, this video, and then he'll put it up on YouTube, and we'll be good to go.
Okay.
Okay. See you ladies later. Bye, Unity.
Okay, bye. Bye, everyone.